standpoint and the management of it. You want to make to those questions?
All right, sure. So, starting with the first one, what is the firm's or office's legal model, and why did you select it, or why was it selected initially?
Well, I'll lead off on that one. We're HKS is our structure is a subchapter S corporation, and to give you a little bit of the what led up to that, HKS began 76 years ago now, and began as a sole proprietorship at Dallas. So HKS, the initials stand for Harwood K. Smith, who's the individual who started the firm back in the 1930s. And so as the firm has grown and gone through multiple, iterations and generations of ownership, this particular legal structure has proven to be the one that works well for our firm in terms of how we're structured from an ownership standpoint. So we have multiple shareholders throughout the firm, each of them owning a certain portion of shares of the firm, and it's set up so that no one individual controls the larger portion of the shares of ownership. So there's a balance to it, and that's good on a number of counts. One being that if one partner suddenly decides to take off and start their own practice, they can't take half of the sort of ownership with them, or leave the rest of the partners trying to scramble to cover things. And then from another standpoint, it's very good for succession of the firm. So we have a kind of a larger principal body that is at different stages in their career. And so as we have principals that are retiring, we have a great group of new people who are moving through the process. And so the firm over the duration that the firm's been in existence has found to be a very sustainable model for ownership transition and succession for the long term, for the firm. So we just celebrated our 75th anniversary last year, so we're already talking about how's this firm going to be or look when it's 100 years old. And the people who are going to take it there are already here. There's already a structure in place that helps them to have a path toward growth, as the firm continues to thrive.
All right. Cool. What is your overall organizational model of the firm, and why did you select it?
I'll take a stab at that one too. Well, HKS is we are an architecture firm, and we do have interior design. That's another facet of what we do. But we're not an architecture and engineering firm, and so organizationally, we're set up on a model that I mentioned earlier. The firm began in Dallas in the 30s and has grown since then. So now we have more than 20 offices around the world. That's, as I said, strictly focusing on architectural and interior design. And so we've grown into this global practice. And so from that standpoint, our organizational model has grown to be one that's more geographically, regionally based. So us, for example, we are working in the Orlando office here in Florida, and we're part of the Southeast region for HKS. So we have offices in Atlanta, and Miami, and Tampa, and then here in Orlando. So all of those offices collaborate to make up the Southeast region, and we share resources. And we found that to be a good model that allows us to easily move and adjust to cover our workload and our project needs and serve our clients better. So if we have a group in Atlanta that has some capacity to be able to handle more work, we can bring them in and apply them to these projects. But at the same time, it allows us to leverage knowledge and capital. So if we have specific expertise in a particular area of our practice that we know can be beneficial to a client, it's easy to bring them in. Since we're one firm and we have this regional mindset, it's allowed us to be very flexible to handle that. With a lot of you would find them to be set up in a profit center model. So if I'm in Orlando and our Orlando office is one center, and if we have a Miami office in the profit center model, it's not very easy for me to grab somebody from Miami and bring them here to have them work on my project or meet with my client because they have a certain skill set or knowledge or experience that can be a benefit. So in the profit center model, if I were to do that, I'd probably get a bill from my Miami office. The way that we are set up, it allows us to be very, very flexible and move people around, flex resources, share work, and be much more collaborative in our day-to-day business.
Okay,
And it also helps us not end up competing against our own offices in a larger region for the same project. Whereas, like Nathan was saying, in a profit mode, if another firm had an Atlanta office and a Miami office and an Orlando office, and there was a big project, say, in Jacksonville, all three offices could be competing for the same one. Whereas with HKS, our Atlanta, Miami, and Orlando office would come together to go after the one project. So HKS as a firm gets the project, not HKS Orlando or HKS Miami.
Okay, gotcha. Like on any given project, how do you organize your staff within your office for that given project, such as like project managers, technical staff, a design architect?
In studio groups or project groups.
Right.
Yeah. Well, we do have a general structure within our practice because as we work over time, over years, you gain experience in different areas, and so we have architects and interior designers who have a greater amount of experience in particular areas like educational projects or government projects or healthcare. And so that's a big factor in how we set up our teams, just in terms of putting the right people in the right places to do the best work. Overall, as a firm, we're really the only kind of dividing line we have is we have a pretty focused healthcare practice group. That we found to be a very large area of specialty. So once you kind of gravitate toward the healthcare realm, that's where you're going. So we have healthcare practice, and then we have what we call commercial, which is essentially anything that's not healthcare. So we have schools, sports projects, hotels and hospitality. All that falls to us on the commercial side, and we flex people around back and forth to work on different things as the project needs arise, and it comes down to who is available and who has the right set of skills to work on a project. If we have someone who's got a wealth of knowledge on educational design, then obviously we want to put them in a position to participate or lead our educational project efforts and help build relationships with those clients.
Cool. Okay. I guess does HKS partake in marketing, and if so, what is your approach towards it?
Well, we do absolutely. Yeah, we do. Marketing is a huge part of our operation to bring in new work and to maintain existing relationships. To bring in more work. We don't really have an outside marketing group. We essentially do all our marketing in-house. And when you're marketing professional services, like in the design professional world, a lot of it comes down to the relationships and the trust that you have with your clients. Our marketing efforts are more about developing a track record with clients, so that when their next project comes up, we're the group they want to come back to. So repeat business, repeat work is essential. And then in our business, our clients move around a lot, and so you may do a project with one client and develop a very good relationship with them, and find that they've left and they've gone to work for a competing organization, another hospital or another school, college, or so you quickly learn it's kind of a small world. And so once you develop and deliver one project and do a great job with one client, the next one might come from somewhere else, but they're always linked. And so our marketing efforts really are concentrated on that kind of relationship building. So it falls to the people who are working on the projects who have the client contact to really, be the sort of the boots on the ground to help us have a stronger marketing effort.
Okay.
And then a fair amount of marketing that we do, especially for publicly funded projects, is in response to requests for proposals that come out from different groups. So taxpayer dollars are being utilized to fund projects. Those client groups generally, will put out proposals, and then multiple architects and competing firms will come in to buy for those projects. But there again, the relationships are the key. If you know, or have developed and worked with clients in those groups, it puts you in a better position to make a short list and get the opportunity to come in and interview for the projects.
So would you say the bigger part of your business is really like existing clients, or do you have a half and half with new clients and then returning clients?
I'd say a fair amount of it is existing clients that are coming back to us. And I don't know if it would be half and half or not, but
it'd be more like a 60-40.
Yeah,
60% existing, 40% new.
Yeah, our work tends to be centered around clients that are doing a series of projects, or they have recurring needs for architectural services. So it's a little more rare, I guess, for us to have a project with a client that's only going to build one thing one at a time.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, repeat clients and having that trust with them is key. And I think it probably does lead to more than half of our recurring project workload.
Okay. You spoke a little bit about, kind of the profit-oriented model. Could you speak towards, I guess, the financial management as it pertains to a particular, or going after a project, or when working on a project, insofar as, I guess, weighing the pros and cons of if a project you see it being profitable down the road, or if it's more about the other benefits, as far as getting into an area or a particular region or a program type.
Yeah. Give me sure lead off on that one. Yeah, it's when we're pursuing new work, that's always a factor for us. Is it a new client that we're willing to invest the effort in to get and to get a good relationship started with a new client, and then will it lead to more? Is it something that's helping to not just lead to more work, but helping to position the firm, HKS, in a better position to grow and to pursue our goals strategically as a firm. And so we do, for every project, we have kind of a go and no-go process that we'll look at as a firm and ask those questions of it. And then, in some cases, we might go into something knowing that we're going to have to, take a hit on this one. This may not be a profitable project, but it may set us up for something bigger and better down the road. And so we're willing to make that investment to do it. So there is that.
I was going to say, on the flip side, sometimes if we know that we're too busy at the time when the project's going to hit the drawing boards, sometimes we just say it's a no-go just because we know we can't do the best job that we can do, and we're still trying to impress the client, especially if it's a new client. So you have to very politely say we need to pass on this one. We don't feel like we're the appropriate firm for their needs.
Yeah, and then in some cases there are opportunities to partner with other firms, with other architectural firms, in particular, and team up to deliver a project. And sometimes that helps handle the workload issue. We feel like we're slammed, we're overloaded with work. But this is an opportunity for us to team with another firm that we have a great relationship with and a track record with. We can both pursue it together, and then just the work is distributed. Of course, the fee is distributed with that. So you always have to have a negotiation up front in terms of how that is going to be worked out. Which firm is going to be the primary firm and take on the bulk of the liability for the project? What exactly the roles and responsibilities are going to be? And I think that was one of your questions you mentioned earlier. We work with other architectural firms on projects, and we certainly read quite a lot of that. Especially being a national and a international firm, we partner with a lot of local firms, smaller local firms that have great relationships with clients at the local level that they've cultivated for years, for decades. And sometimes we can come in and help support them and be sort of the horsepower that helps them to deliver a project that's on a much larger scale than a smaller firm would normally be able to handle. And so we have a number of firms locally throughout the region that we regularly team with to help develop those relationships and positions both of our firms as partners better for further work going forward to be able to either crack into new markets or develop talents and skill sets that we have been looking to beef up, within our firm.
Or create the relationships that we were talking about earlier with clients. Sometimes the smaller firms have that relationship, and we're trying to create that relationship with that client. So that allows us. That's a way to do that as well.
Okay. And in terms when you do team up with these other firms, how do the project teams work, or how are they assigned?
It just depends on the size of the project and the expertise. If we have the expertise, but they have the local connections, then we would probably be the leads on the project with their support. Or sometimes they're the lead designers, and then we provide the horsepower, if you would, the manual labor. Or sometimes it's 50-50, where somebody will take the shell and core, and we'll take the interiors, or vice versa. It just depends. It's a project-by-project basis.
Okay.
I said three examples right now. So there's three projects that I'm working on right now that we have teamed with local architects on. On one of those projects, we are the lead designer, so we're doing the master planning, concept design, and schematic design work. And then when we turn in the schematic design phase of the project, our local firm that we're teamed with will take it from there and do the design development and construction documents, and then take it through construction administration phase. So there's a clear cutoff from schematic where HKS kind of stops, more or less, and then the other firm will pick up and take it to the finish line. And I have another project where that's flipped, and the local firm is doing the front-end design work, and then we're going to pick it up at design development and carry it the rest of the way through. So that whole relationship is flipped. And then we have yet another, really two more projects where we're teamed with another firm, and it's split. We're actually working in partnership with them all the way through in every phase, and we split it based on the kind of clear lines of demarcation on the project. So the other firm is doing what we call the core and shell design and documents, and we're doing all of the interior work on that. So there's a lot of different ways you can slice it up, but it kind of depends on what's right for the project and what what skill sets are within each of the firms that can best support the client for what ultimately they need to get out of their projects.
Okay. Would you, I don't know, like piggybacking on that, would you have at any point the two firms, different groups within the two firms working on the same part, or is that just a waste of time?
No, I think it has more to do with signing and sealing and liability of work. So you want to have a clear line of who's done what on the sheets and who's done what on other sheets, and it's easier to keep track for liability purposes.
Okay.
All right. What project delivery method does HKS prefer, and why?
I don't think we have necessarily a preference again, it depends on the project.
Gotcha.
There's on a small project, the traditional design bid works just fine. In other cases, you want to, sometimes the client demands that you do a design build where you partner with a CM. Let's see if there's.
Well, there's the construction management, which is pretty common. That's definitely a common one that we see a lot, where an owner will select a construction manager, and then they'll select the architect, and then pair them up. And the construction manager works through every stage of the project with the architect, and essentially provides sort of management, cost management, constructability input, and so forth throughout each phase of the project. And that all, we found that to be a very, it's a good model for delivery, but you have to have a good CM in that seat. You have to really make it work. If you don't, if you have one that's not kind of pulling their weight, it becomes a lot more difficult, and doesn't allow you to take advantage of the strength that model provides. Now, the design build model is one that we've done quite a bit too, and that's one where we would actually team with a contractor, and instead of working for the owner, we would essentially be a subcontractor or subconsultant to the contractor who's going to build the project. And in many ways, it's very similar to the construction management model, but the big difference is that we are contractually tied to the contractor and not the owner. So the owner is picking one sort of entity, which is the design build team, to do the whole project. And then, as Miguel mentioned, the hard bid is still, a methodology that we do fairly frequently. I think it's really kind of fallen out of favor with a lot of owners in favor of construction management or design build. And I guess that's mainly because the whole low bidder perception. You're getting the lowest bid. I think it was John Glenn, the astronaut. Someone asked him, "What did it feel like to sit on top of the rocket?" The rocket before you're about to go up, and he said, "Well, you're sitting on 2 million, on top of 2 million parts that were all built by the lowest bidder." We also we're seeing some of our owners on the healthcare side, and then we do here in Orlando. We do a fair amount of work with Disney, and they're using this too. It's a delivery model that's called Integrated Project Delivery, or IPD. And we're starting to see that more and more on healthcare projects, but Disney has started to use that quite a bit as well. And that's one where it's more like a shared risk reward thing. There's some really good things about that model. And I don't know if you guys have studied that in your professional practice, but we're starting to see it grow in use, especially with our larger clients, who do a lot of construction projects. So those are the types that we use. In terms of our preference, though, when you get a good CM on board, that's a good mix where the owner picks the CM and we're the architects and we work together with them. It just works. Yeah. And I think we're still on the fence with the IPD process. We'll see.
Yeah. Are you guys still there?
Yeah, sorry.
Just get,
I think we lost our video.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess in line with project management, what do you usually encounter as the hardest part of managing a project?
You can start. I'll lead off on that one. I think probably the most difficult part in managing projects is, for the most part, we tend to have multiple projects on our plate, and you know, all of our clients want to feel like they're our only client, you know? So, you know, juggling the responsibilities and multiple, you know, clients, multiple deadlines, especially those that are very meeting intensive. Yeah. You're running around to meetings all day, you know, then you come back and you got to get some work done.
Right.
So balancing and juggling all those responsibilities is probably the hardest part, and we try to, you know, keep obviously, you know, a balance of, you know, how many projects are on the plate at one time. But it varies depending on the scale and the complexity of the project, and really the nature of the client too, in terms of how intense, you know, are these clients with meetings and with demands. And then, you know, because of that, it's a tough balance, I think, to maintain that feeling that the clients expect to have, that they're your most important client, they're your only client.
Right.
And trying to balance the needs to be productive, be profitable. We have, you know, a fee that's been negotiated for every project, and it's based on a very, you know, clear set of contractual obligations, you know, things that we're required to do. And, you know, many times, it happens every day, I think, you know, the phone rings and you get a request in from a client that's really outside the bounds of what, you know, a need to do up front. And you have to kind of make the call as to whether or not, well, we're going to do this just to keep, you know, the client happy, to keep things going, or is this something we need to,
Right.
or we need to, you know, start to charge them some additional fees for. And what I found is that you know, it kind of depends on the track record you have with the client. You know, you've got a really good relationship with them, they trust you, and you put that time in with them up front, so they know you're not nickeling and diming them. They're much more open to, you know, your request when it comes in, that we're going to need a little more fee to take care of this new thing that just came up, you know, that we're going to spend a lot of time on.
And sometimes you just get the challenge of, you know, they want the Rolls Royce or the Mercedes Benz for the Kia price.
Yeah.
And sitting in those meetings, and they're like, well, you know, we're over budget, we need to cut.
Yeah.
So you're finding things to cut, but and by the way, we need this, and we need that, and we need this other. And it's like, well, you know, we're adding scope to the project, so that's sometimes very challenging. And recently, in the last 3 or 4 years, I have found as a project architect that they want everything faster and faster and faster, and you can only produce it so fast, and then you know, your quality starts to suffer. So you have to balance all, you know, the owner's wants and needs with what can actually be a good quality deliverable to them.
I think another difficult thing with respect to being a project manager is, you know, that's your first priority when you come in, coming to work every day, you know, is making sure all those demands are met. You know, that our clients are getting what they need, and that their relationships are being maintained, and that we're profitable, of course. But, you know, outside of that, you're always trying to find time to invest in the firm and to help manage the practice, you know, and keep track of, you know, how are people growing, do we have the right people at the right places to do the right things? Are we, you know, we have a lot of internal programs that we all kind of get involved with from a mentoring standpoint, and continuing education, and we have Revit, like in-house Revit workshops, you know, and just trying to make sure that we're doing all those things to fine-tune our practice, you know, that are outside of the realm of the daily project, you know, workload that we have. But trying to carve out time to focus on those things can be really difficult sometimes. But I think, you know, and this kind of touches back onto our organizational model that you were asking about earlier. I think that's one benefit of the model that we have within that profit center model that we mentioned earlier. You know, one challenge you have there too that a lot of large firms experience is that because if our office, for example, were its own individual profit center, then we would have to have our own accounting department, our own marketing group in-house. Human resources, we'd have to have all the overhead staff that goes with supporting as if we were a standalone firm, you know. And in our model, the majority of that is centered in our headquarters in Dallas, and they have a staff that serves all of our offices. And it helps, I think, to take a lot of the kind of rote, I guess, minutiae off of our project managers' plates, so that they can focus on the things that they're best at, and that they can put the time in where they really want to put the time in. Like why we all got into this in the first place, you know. And so I think that's a great thing about the model that we have got.
Okay.
If I had to do all that, I'd come back and try to balance the books, you know, or make sure that, you know, the payroll's met. Yeah. There's never be time for anything else. But to have a dedicated group, you know, at HQ that's got all that, you know, they've got your back. It really frees you up to be able to go pretty deep in making sure that we have a high-functioning office.
Cool. How does HKS view its role as a project stakeholder, not only, I guess, in a project, but also with the project in the community, in the Orlando area, in the Central Florida area? I guess, would you take a particular project if you knew that, I guess, the benefit to the stakeholders of the project would be, I guess, beyond just the individual project, but to the surrounding community? Or, I guess, if you can speak towards something, or towards that idea.
I guess I'd say actually the majority of the projects we do are community based. Yeah. We especially here in Orlando, we've done Orlando's City Hall building. We're just working now on phase 2. We just finished phase 1 of the Performing Arts Center for the city of Orlando. We're doing school projects, educational projects. So the impact, you know, that the projects have on the community is always something that we factor into our thinking when we're pursuing work.
And I was going to say, our firm motto is creating places that enhance the human experience. You know, that's sort of what drives us as a firm. And so when we're pursuing a project, especially if it's something, you know, earlier we were saying local firms. I mean, we're a local firm. We're a local firm to Orlando. A lot of people see us as an outside firm because their headquarters is in Dallas, but everybody in this office lives and works here in the Florida area. We're from here. So we have a vested stake in our own community.
Yeah, and you know, in terms of our role, you know, and Bernie, your question that you asked about how we view our role in relation to other stakeholders in the project, and we mentioned like in those delivery methods, models. There's a lot of different voices that come into the room: the contractor, of course, the client, the owner, and then we bring in, you know, a host of consultants, just in our larger, more complex projects to work on these things. And really, we end up being listeners. You know, we facilitate discussion amongst the team and try to draw things out of the group. And then, as architects, we feel like it's our role, our responsibility to take all the input we get from all the different stakeholders and put it together into solutions that work for the needs of the owner and for the community as well. So that's I think it's kind of an ethos for us. So we really don't want to go into a room and try to own the room, you know, run the show when we get in there. We try to stay at the table and keep our ears open and our eyes open and listen first. And for us, that's the most important step in communicating, is really understanding what the needs are.
Okay, like as far as more public stakeholders, beyond the client, beyond the contractors, but just the general public, I guess as far as informing the public on an upcoming project or getting the public's input on a project, do you guys typically handle that, or is that more, does your client more go about that, I guess, getting the public's input?
That varies. I mean, for some of our projects, the client will lead that effort, some of our clients would actually engage a consultant to reach out to the community, depending on the nature of the project, to do community surveys. I know we've done quite a lot for the city of Orlando, and that's something that they do on a pretty regular basis is get public stakeholder input. And in a lot of cases, we'll go in and facilitate workshops, and so we will be kind of the face, I guess, or the orchestrator, and sometimes we have a human shield. And we take all the darts, from the public, but that, becomes a role for us quite a bit to work with the owner to help facilitate forums for community input, whether it's a community workshop, like a town hall meeting. We have a school project we're doing here in downtown Orlando right now, and there's a community meeting next week that we'll go to, and we'll be the facilitator for that, and gathering community input. And then that project has a health clinic group as part of it. The Boys and Girls Clubs are part of it. The school district itself. So, kind of facilitating communication with all those groups, and then blending in public input is kind of part of what we do.
In contracting with a client, do you in Orlando typically handle that, or is that more Dallas?
We handle that for Orlando. So we are for our projects that we have here. We take the lead on that. We do have a legal sort of counsel group that is centered in Dallas. And so it is, of course, our policy that we run everything through them. So whenever we have a new contract that's coming on online with a client, we'll send it over there and have them review it, give us input and feedback. But we negotiate the terms and the scope and the schedule, fees, everything through our office here, and then kind of formalize everything in contractual structure through our Dallas group.
Is it the same with consultants? When you, subconsult?
Yeah, we contract with them directly.
Okay.
And then I'm pretty sure we have a standard company-wide contract that we use with our consultants.
Yeah, we have a sub-consultant agreement that's a firm standard that our legal counsel has put together. And many times we'll send a copy of that to our consultants and have them review it and ask us questions, or if there are things that they would like to edit, we'll bring those questions back to our legal group. And usually the answer is no. No changes. But it is very helpful to have that group, available to vet all those things. But obviously, and you guys are going through it right now, but contracts it's not something you learn a whole lot about when you're in school, and it takes time and going through projects and reading different contracts, and every one of them is different. It's like every owner has a different set of criteria, and the AIA contract documents are an industry standard for us, and those really form sort of the backbone of what we use for a contract basis. But in many cases, we get owners who won't use those or don't want to use those, and will come up with their own format, and then we'll have to scrub it and look over with our legal counsel, and make sure that it's equitable for everybody that's involved.
For staff of HKS, how are new hires handled? Do you guys pride yourself on rising through the ranks versus hiring outside staff, and you can speak towards that?
Yeah, I think we have a good balance of both. Being a established practice at 76 years old, we have people here who have been here for their whole career. 30, 40 years. Yeah. We have, and then everything. We have people who just started, and everything in between.
if we have a specific need on a project where we need a staff, we need to have a certain person that meets certain criteria, and they're not within. We don't have it within the firm. We will hire from outside. You know, and the other times if we have the right person for the right job, they're staffed to that project directly from internally. And recently, I'd say 2 or 3 years, we started what we call the whole architect, where sometimes in larger firms you get pigeonholed in you're the toilet stall detailer or the stair detailer, or you're only doing like safety plans, and that's what you become really good at. And with here at HKS, we've started taking the whole architect approach, so that everybody grows as a whole architect and goes from design through construction and has a full range of knowledge of projects, so that if the time is right and the project's right and you're the right person for it, you can work on it internally and then get promoted, internally. So we have the internal talent.
Yeah, and that we found that to be a very appealing model, because it allows you to develop very well-rounded people who have experience and knowledge and can work on any phase of a project. And you can start to gravitate from there, but we feel it's important, especially for a new graduate who comes in, to get the full range of experience, and they can grow from that, and you can start to see where their skill sets really are focused, and help them grow in that direction. And so we've kind of coined it the whole architect. And it really was. I think it started actually as a sort of a response to the recession that everybody just went through. As firms had to reduce in size, you had to rely on people to be able to wear different hats, do a lot of different things. And the more well-rounded your skill set, the more you could contribute in any phase of a project. And so coming out of the recession, we just, I think developed an understanding that it's best for the longevity of the firm to have the most well-rounded group of talented people, that we can develop here.
Okay. I guess in line with that, I guess if HKS becomes really busy and projects start coming in more and more, do you have a plan in place where the firm size can easily fluctuate, where you might bring in some designers or architects for like one project, or is it more just we can't handle the project right now, staffing can't meet its needs, we have to pass?
Yeah, I think we're more of a, like we talked earlier, no go or no go firm. We don't like to hire and fire.
Gotcha.
It's not our practice to bring in 20 people and then the project's over and it's like, thank you, goodbye.
Gotcha.
No, we don't like to create that office environment, an office culture, company culture.
Okay.
Yeah, like that.
Yeah, we mentioned earlier, we do leverage our relationships with other architectural firms too. So if we see that there's a demand that we're too busy to meet, or our staffing, is booked, we can bring in another firm, and maybe they're light, they need some work, but so we can start to share some staff between firms. In fact, we're doing it right now. We have someone right across the hall. Another firm is working on a project with us right now.
But before we do that, sometimes we leverage our other talent in our other offices. For example, if there's 2 or 3 people in Miami that are slow, and 2 or 3 people in Atlanta, we'll pull them into the project remotely and keep the talent in-house if we can.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in terms of your staff and architects, about how many projects do they handle at a time? Are they only working on one project, or working on multiples?
I guess, or does mostly size govern?
It's size governed because, like, for example, our interiors department, if they're doing a lot of tenant finish out projects, they might be working on 4 or 5 projects at once because they're considerably smaller. On the architectural side, depending on the size of the project, for example, the airport project that we're wrapping up now, that's a fairly large project. So those people are solely on that one project. It's just so big. I myself right now am working on technically 3 projects. And they're in various stages. Some might be in design, some might be in construction document phase, and others might be in construction administration. But we usually, I would say, 2 to 3 projects per person.
I guess just more of a physical layout of the office question. I guess how do you guys organize yourselves? Like project manager with technical staff or project managers together? I guess just basic meeting areas. If you can speak to stuff like that.
Well, actually, we just went through a reorganization.
Right.
Just because of the way that our office suite is laid out and the office building that we're in, we gained some space that we had leased out previously. We gained it back and sort of reconsolidated people in different areas. And the way we've rearranged everything is we put the hospitality and commercial group together on one side of the office with the interiors, and then the healthcare group alongside with education and some more commercial together, so that not everybody's completely isolated with healthcare on one side by themselves and interior somewhere else. But we also lay ourselves out in sort of teams where the project manager, the project architect, and team captain and a couple of interns are working in close proximity to each other just to keep production up, so that if I have a question, I don't have to go up and walk all the way across the office to ask the person, or they have to come to me or whatnot.
As far
and
as
we're also in a sort of an open environment too, so that if somebody's on a phone call, anybody can hear it, and then you learn through osmosis, or
kind of like essentially like a studio culture.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
As far as computer programs, and which ones you use, I guess, is there kind of a wait and see how they spread through the industry first, or do you look for like this new, more cutting edge one, or I guess is it more a weighing the financial benefits of the program?
We're definitely not a wait and see firm, but having said that, we're not a look before you leap firm either. So I guess we like to try to hit this stuff in the sweet spot. Yeah. Particularly when it came to building information modeling, as that platform really started to show its promise, we grabbed onto it pretty early. So HKS, I think, was one of the first firms in the country to really start to leverage it. To the extent that we actually developed a relationship with Autodesk. So HKS was one of their sort of pilot firms in the United States to roll out Revit in the architectural world. But we tend to use our software where we feel like it's most effective. So there's a number of different programs we use for sketching or concept studies. We really don't use Revit for that. We tend to start bringing in Revit when we get a little more firm idea of what the design solution is, and we can start to populate it more. Revit wants so much information early, and building information modeling does, I guess, any platform, that sometimes for me, it can be a little frustrating. Like, I don't know if it's going to be a concrete block wall yet or not. I just know that I'm going to have a wall there. So having tools like SketchUp and what else we do, Rhino and I don't know, 3D Max, various different animal named programs that we use here. So it's a variety of stuff that we use, and it really kind of depends on what the end product is that we're looking for, or what type of design exploration we're doing.
And from a production standpoint, our firm policy is pretty much everything's in Revit, unless it's customer driven that, they've got an existing building that we're working on and it's in CAD and they want to continue using it in CAD because they want the files at the end of the project. We'll use CAD for that. But typically it's all BIM, Revit deliverable.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions?
I don't know. Can we get like a bit of input of your experience within the office, developing within the firm, or the office culture?
Yeah, I guess more of your individual experience. I guess growing through the firm.
Should I start? Go for it. Okay. I've only been with the firm actually for about a year and a half. I do have over 12 years experience, but with HCAS I've only been here a year and a half. And it's very different from anywhere I've worked. We are, we're a large firm. We're 1,200 people worldwide. But we do have a small firm feel here in the Orlando office. We function like a small firm. So you have the benefits of all the resources of a big firm with the feel of a small firm. And potential professional growth is set by yourself, in my opinion. It's what you make, what you want to achieve or what you don't want to achieve, because the resources are there, the possibilities are there. And it's a very open environment, very friendly, very collaborative. It's all for, it's not about one person. It's we're all in it together type of culture.
Yeah. I think that approach of that whole architect that we mentioned earlier is sort of key to that. Really allows for a lot of individual exploration, and you can kind of set your own direction and chart your own course here. So it's a pretty unique environment in that respect.
Cool.
And I think it's a firm to a culture that's always open, for continuous improvement. So there always seems to be a receptiveness to new ideas. If you come in and you had a dream last night, about a terrific, new program that can really help our young architects, in some way, there's an ear for that, and a willingness to sit down and see how new things can fit within the structure here to help us, constantly improve and grow.
As far as design competitions, do you guys usually, I guess, do them, or is it more, it's not real work? I'm gonna stay away from that.
Well, we do them on a very limited basis. We do. I mean, some design competitions are actually paid competitions, so you can, it's an easier, it has financial decisions. Mm-hmm. It is an investment. You're going to really go for it, and if you decide to enter it, you have to go all in. You have to put your best effort forward. So it's a big investment. So it really, I think for us, it depends on what we see as the return for it. Not necessarily in terms of your chances of winning the project. Even with the design competition world, it's they seldom turn into real projects. Many times they're just theoretical, or they're just explorations of dreams. Of dreams, and that's fine. I think if you go into it thinking, this is what we want to get these things out of this effort. That's an important thing for us. I mean, we have a pretty wide array of interests within the firm, not just within the project work, like from our healthcare and our commercial side, but we've set up our own R&D group that is exploring different uses for materials, different project delivery techniques, and so forth. And so if we see some things that could come out of a design competition that could help us from a research standpoint, that could be things that we could learn from and apply throughout the firm, we'll pursue that.
Cool. All right.
I
think that's about it.
Yeah. If we have any questions, could we shoot you an email?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, cool.
Great.
Yeah, feel free.
All right, awesome.
Well, thank
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
for.
Yeah, the first time you need to run off to my 3 o'clock.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah,
Well,
yeah, you guys have been amazing.
just thank you for finding some time for us. I know you're busy.
Yeah.
Well, it's our pleasure. Like I said, we're happy to support you. And we've always had, I think, a good relationship with Michigan. And, we wish you guys the best with the project.
Awesome.
Good luck.
Thank you. Have a
Thank you
good
guys
day.
so much.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Yeah, I think I'll just email him and ask about